live. Yes, it does. It does say good morning.
Awesome.
Just
So how are you, buddy? It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you last.
well, I've had a murderous first week back at work in 3 weeks. So 3 weeks off is never. you can lose a lot of motivation in 3 weeks. 3 weeks by only 2 weeks in Spain, but 2 weeks by the pool is, and then come back and then you have to go back to work, and that's probably never a great idea. It's quite painful, really, but I have survived the first week back at work, and it's been wonderful. Actually, that's right. So it's it all shuts down a bit in the there we are. Found us.
What's the weather like in the UK? Still hot?
No, it's horrible. We've had
Really?
we've had a week of rain, basically. And
wow.
sort of 17 degrees, which isn't very exciting. What about you? You're in what are you in? Autumn, spring?
Spring? Tail end of autumn, spring. So
it's
getting lighter.
Summer. Yeah.
Still cold though.
Is it still cold? Yeah. Does it get cold in Hamilton or not?
Yeah. It can, during winter, it can get down to about -1, -2.
Okay. Do you have snow? Do you get snow?
No snow. And during the day, during winter, you're on about 12, 13, 14 degrees. So
yeah, very nice. So I've come back this week. My first act on Monty was I don't know if I said this, but I have you heard of something called the Rocking 1000?
No.
Well, the Rocking 1000, I've come across it, which might pique my interest. But the Rocking 1000 is a so guys, what they do is they organise a gig, right, where you play covers, and but you get like 1,000 musicians together to do it. So you get 200 guitar players, 200 drummers, 200 bass players, 200 vocal, whatever. And you make this massive band, and then you hire a stadium or whatever thing, and you go and make a bloody big noise.
That's a lot of lager.
It sounds like a lot of fun to me. Actually, this sounds like good. So while I was away, while I was on holiday, one of the people I went on the guitar breaks, my guitar playing holiday thing, Pat, he put it up on our sort of guitar breaks private Facebook thing, saying anybody interested, and I was like, oh yeah, well I've been interested for ages, because if you look at YouTube, there's a brilliant Rebel. They do Rebel. Like 1,000 people playing Rebel, and this camera, going down these lines of drummers, and then lines of guitarists. So I was like, you think that looks like a lot of fun, I play in covers bands. That looks like a lot of fun. Like I might have a tilter. So I've been thinking about it for a while, but this. Oh, because you needed, basically, there's a 2-stage thing. You sign up, and then part of the signing up is you say what you play, obviously, and part of the sign up is you have to put in some links to to prove you can play, sort of. You're not just kind of.
Oh, okay. So you have to be a player.
You have to be a player. Sorry, early morning. Chest not working properly, but so you definitely have to be a player. So you have to put. So fortunately, I've got a couple of things on my YouTube that I could put up. So I put them. So I sent them a link of us doing Man on the Moon, and I sent a link of me playing the Cars thing, just an abbreviated, just to show I could play. So I passed the audition. I think it's a bit more extravagant than this. You passed the audition. I hope so. But
we passed the audition.
Did we pass the audition? Are we doing? How did I go? Yeah, But it's like, it's one of those times you send it off and you think, I wonder what their level's like. It's like you think it's fine. You think, are they going to think I'm rubbish? Is it like it's going to be really embarrassing? No. You're not gonna have, there's this terrible kind of ego thing. Thinking, oh, no, if I get a no, it's gonna be
Spoken like a
hide
true
under a rock.
musician.
Yeah, gonna hide under a rock for years. Anyway, so if I pass the audition, you'll be pleased to know, dear Mr. Williams, you've passed the audition. Well done. So that's the first day. So you're in the pool. Then you have to register for the specific event that's happening.
Wow.
So this was the next one's in October in Milan. So I registered for that, and I didn't kind of quite, it's one of those things where you kind of know what's going on, but you kind of don't, the details are a bit. So I got an email back saying you are between 90th and 110th on the waiting list. So obviously I wasn't in the first 1,000, was I? So, but I was all right, actually. I didn't mind, to be honest, because, it's all a bit of a voyage of discovery and just kind of working out. But one of the things I discovered was, and maybe I could show it because is that they then sent a thing, which had the kind of logistics on it, what you had to bring exactly, and it turned out that I would have practically I'd have had to hire a truck to get to Milan because basically you have to take everything, and not only I've only got and this is interesting. I'll see if I can find it because it did make me smile. This in terms of the sort of what the kit you had to take.
Really?
And they basically, you have to take guitar, obviously, lead.
Yeah.
You have to take an amp. You have to take a distortion pedal of some kind. If I just, there we go. So, but this was the weird bit, or the bit I sort of was a bit stunned by. I don't know if
okay, well, just hold on. I'm going to see if I can present you on this new system, Simon. So hold on.
Okay, go on then. Okay, I'll put this up.
There you are. Cool.
There we are. Right now, if I can get this to, can you see that?
Wow.
See, it says C2 valve amp, 100 watts.
Wow.
4 stars. 8. What's that say? 60 to 80. 3 stars. 50, 2. Under 50, 1. Now,
wow.
I've only got a PVW. It's only a 30 watt. Well, only 30 watt. It's just 30 watt amp, and you go, that's loud enough for anyone, And I was like, well, yeah, two valve amps over 100 watts forbidden, which is quite funny. But yeah, under 50 watts only gets 1 star. The amps with more stars than the most. You go, well, I've only got. It's bloody loud. It's like because watts doesn't equal loudness.
No.
One of the basic things you learn, isn't it? Watts don't equal loudness.
Watts was the biggest trap I fell into, Simon?
Yeah, didn't we all? Yeah. I fall into that. Well, I've told this story. I had a when I started off, I had a my high watt. But part of the joke about that is I said when I sold my high watt, I bought my PV Delta Blues was I'll buy a bigger amp the day that somebody comes up and says you're too quiet.
Yeah.
And nobody in 21 years, nobody ever has. So I know I had to buy another amp.
30 watts is loud, Simon.
I think what I can't work out is if you're playing in like a stadium, if you're playing in a big open air thing, so there's there's thousands of you. I don't know whether 30, is in my head. You go, well, you're one of 200 or 300 guitarists. How loud do you need to be, for goodness sake? For it to be loud.
Well, Clapton's
they must have some kind
using,
of mic'd up PA system, whatever, or
Yeah. Well, Clapton's only using 2 Tweed 80-watt amps.
Yeah, Joe Bonamassa uses 2, doesn't he? And two Dumbles. They're like 80-watt super ones, aren't they? He's got special ones. But my point exactly, and he has those plastic guards in front of him to, shield the audience from the full blast of the noise. But I was a bit. So anyway, because I was only 110th list, I thought, all right. I now I understand, that this, and they hadn't shown this at all. I hadn't seen this before I tried it. I thought, well, I'll need to consider this, kind of work out what to do.
Yeah.
So I took myself off the list, basically. So I'm not in for the Milan one, because I realised, as I say, that I would have had to start. You start going, well, there's only one way of getting there, and that's driving. The only way I'll be able to get there would be to load all my kit in my car and drive.
Yeah.
Well, So because if you're going to take your amp, I mean, my Pevy Delta Blues, it's not designed for, it's got an open back, valves open to the world, you kind of like, I'm not taking that on, I'm not putting that for anybody else to deal with, that's for certain, because it will never survive.
Sure.
It's an old, I've had it for 22 years. It's an old American one, so it's not a Chinese one.
It's vintage.
It's an American one. So, at some point, I don't know what. Do you know what the age of vintage stuff is? I don't know. At some point, it becomes vintage, doesn't it?
20.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah, it definitely is now. It's definitely vintage now. But so, and you're going, what? I mean, it's heavy. It's I don't know, £50 or something. So it's it's a heavy old amp with a spring reverb plate in it and all sorts. And you say to someone, "I'll take it up," I can't, because normally when the guitar breaks thing, perfect. You see, you go on the train,
sure,
and actually the overnight train goes from Paris to Milan. So you get off in the place you're going to do it. Then it's a bit, and if obviously one of my friends, Pat, was going to be there, he would probably have driven down. So better get transport stuff, and Emilio Massario, the guy who does Cornerstone Pedals, he lives near Milan as well. So he was like, I can transport you around, kind of thing. But yeah, obviously then you're going to different logistics if you've got to take all your kit. So I then thought, blimey. So I sort of backed out and thought, I just need to give this a little more thought, because then you start going, well, do I need to buy a bigger amp really to make it worthwhile? Then what are you going to do? I don't really want to spend another grand on another amp. I don't, I think about amps from time to time, but don't, and then you go, well, and then you get into the weight thing, don't you? And then you start going, well, whatever you're doing, you're going to have to drive. And for me to drive to Milan is 2 days. It's 2 days there and it's 2 days back. Face facts, it's 1,100 miles. I can't do that in a day. So, I'm sort of in limbo. But I think I'm gonna wait until if they do one closer to me than I think they've done one in Paris in the past. So Paris would be much better because you could drive that in a day, no problems at all. It would be a lot easier.
That's a big deal, Simon. This thing, it's a big deal. It's a bit. Clearly, it's a bit. So is there sponsorship involved?
I presume they're sponsored. Yeah, I presume they are sponsored. Interestingly, I noticed they didn't do much kind of, but Steve from Boston and Phil McKnight did one about a couple of months ago. I don't know if you saw it. Wow. They came to you after the Tome and Gear, university thing they did. Then they came back, and then a couple of weeks ago they went back to Germany at the guests of is it Rev, the amp company?
Oh yeah.
I think, and as part of that, they then got into doing this Guitar 1000, and there's some film of them. They did some. Steve from Boston did, I think, did some, but they didn't kind of put it up as a thing. It was just part of what they were doing in Germany, and they did some other stuff in Germany, messing about and stuff with Henning as well. I think Henning was there, Henning Prowley.
Oh, okay.
And so they went and did it. So they, that kind of piqued my interest a bit more, because obviously then people, you have some affiliation with are doing it. So, wow. But anyway, it sounds like fun, and I'm going to keep investigating it to to see, and maybe wait for one to get a bit closer if I have to drive. Because you have to think.
Yeah, keep us in touch, and when you take one, you'll have to take some footage
Yeah. But I think yes, I think I'll just wait for one to be closer. So because I have to drive,
Wow.
that if I'm going to drive, then it's got to be closer than northern Italy to do it. Because as I say, you've got to commit to 3 days. So you commit to the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday. I think they do about 20 songs, something like that.
Wow.
Let me see. Yeah. So where's it? Did I give it tutorials? Let's see what. So the list of, just to give you an example, the list of the songs they got "Learn to Fly" by the Foo Fighters,
Yeah.
Seven Nation Army by White Stripes, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana, Jumping Jack Flash, the Rolling Stones, a medley of Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix. I don't know what that means, but
wow.
Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson, Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who, and Killing in the Name of by Rage Against the Machine.
That's good guitar stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's fine, So, I don't know all of those songs, but some of them I do. Yeah, but I think you get given parts as well. It's quite. They have to, you have to wear headphones with a click track, and they quite tightly control what you're doing. Yeah. So which is fine. That's that's what I should be doing. Because otherwise it's not going to work. It's just going to sound a mess.
Mayhem.
So they delegate you what your part of the song is going to be, and they delegate. You've got your headphones on with a click track on, and you click, play click track and stuff. So I think it's as ever with these things, you can learn to play a song, but that's half of it. The other half is, right, in a band situation, which bit are you going to play? Are you going to be Keith Richards, or are you going to be Mick Taylor, or Ronnie Wood, whatever kind of thing. To me, that's the interesting part. But that's fine.
Which sort of gets into the realm of producing, doesn't it?
Yes, well, that control you have, yeah.
How many times does a band rehearse something, and then they get into the studio and the producer says, well, actually, maybe you should play the solo?
Well, that's right. Or nobody's around, or other people are not around. So, so somebody will play it all. What was I listening to? I was listening to something you may be interested in, actually. I was listening to a podcast. Do you remember I sent you that story about Keith Richards and
Yes.
Dave Edmonds? Well,
yes.
The two guys who do it, Mark Ellen and David Hepworth, they're kind of journalists from here. They run magazines, Mojo Magazine and stuff, and they started Mojo
Jason.
Magazine and just think, Jason Wade, good morning. How you doing? Hope you're good. But they went to Abbey Road a couple of weeks ago. To what? Go on.
Dave went there too, so we need to talk about that as well. So you carry on.
Well, did he go to this thing where this Dutch group reproduced this? Oh, well, you know all about it. See,
no. He just sent me some photos saying that he's been to that Abbey Road lecture or
studio.
Whatever studio. Okay. They're doing a tour or workshop.
Tour. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this wasn't a tour. This was a gig. Basically they're a Dutch band. I can't remember what they're called. We'll find out. Basically, and they're amateurs. They're not professionals, but what they do is they reproduce exactly Beatles albums. So they did Abbey Road in Abbey Road.
Wow.
There are lots of musicians, and people would come on and do one thing. They would come on, like they said that they had one guy who wheeled on an anvil to do the Maxwell Silver Hammer bit. Whilst they started, kind of wheeled it on it, doing kind of thing.
They didn't sample it; they actually hit an anvil.
No. What? No. This is not sample. This is technicianship of the highest order. Basically, they get the actual instruments that were being used. The Beatles used. Get them all together on the individual tracks, and then play the individual tracks as they are. Now they're not attempting to look or sound like the Beatles, but they're attempting to recreate each song as a as it was played, and obviously in Abbey Road.
Wow.
You know, and just saying, you know, what was played on here, what instruments used, and of course, some of those things are quite hard to get. You know, like I think they had an electronic
50 years ago.
harpsichord. Well,
Yeah.
they had an electronic harpsichord. Now, you know, of course, if you're doing a gig and you're doing a gig with an instrument that's 50 years old, guess what? You better
Yeah.
get more than one, because otherwise it's going to be otherwise that's going to be a very bad idea. So they had to get more than one. You've got to find these instruments that may have only been in vogue for, you know, 2 or 3 years before, that level. You know, they were in that stage of 70. Of course, they were, you know, they were being superseded by better models, you know, things like that, especially that electronics. So they've only been around for a few years, you know. So finding this quite. So anyway, so they got all the instruments, the actual instruments that were being used on all the tracks, and then they kind of ran through them all at Abbey Road in an amazingly kind of. These are amateur musicians, by the way. They're not.
Wow.
They're not professionals. You know, and they played them all. You know, they had a string quartet and stuff, and but you know, somebody would come on and two of these electronic harpsichords they play. You know, 2 people playing them. Somebody would come and do some. You know, they had one person who just came on to sing one specific song, and you know, they're not the others. So you know, it's got a lot of people involved. But you know, doing Abbey Road in Abbey Road live, being recorded. They recorded it for release.
Hey, Mitch.
So at some point, at least, they said it was astonishing. You know, because the level of detail you have to go into to find out what everyone's playing and things like that.
I'm looking forward, Simon, to the re-release that Giles has been doing lately. The 50th anniversary of Abbey Road. I think it's coming out in about a month's time. They've managed to find some demos. And he's done a good job. I've got the White Album remixes.
Oh, you got that?
Done.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And it's not bad. So I'm looking forward to Abbey Road, because that's certainly one of my favourites. Most people who love the Beatles love Abbey Road. So what a mission to go and find all this gear 50 years later. Holy cow!
Yeah, amazing. But one of the things they said, just talking about what you're talking about, is that they had been to interview George Martin and Giles Martin about about remastering the Beatles and stuff, and they George and Giles had played them. I think the rhythm track to something on Abbey Road. It is, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So they played, and he said, Mark Ellen, one of the guys, he said the rhythm track is absolutely astonishing. They played just the drums and the bass, and they said it is incredible, the level of musicianship and what's going on. Just the bass and the
bass playing that Paul McCartney is doing on that album.
Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr together, is and people go, Ringo Starr. No, that's a magic combination. And he said you can hear it's a magic combination. You play the 2 things on their own, you can hear the magic combination between of those 2 guys playing.
Yep.
And take out all the other difference. Which
I think we forget actually how good a bass player Paul McCartney is. He's phenomenal.
Yeah. He gets completely phenomenal bass player. I mean, it's. I guess I think you're right that people do forget what a great bass player he was, kind of thing.
Jason's first album was Rubber Soul, when he was 10 years old.
Yeah, you see, Jason, I don't know. You see, I can remember in my house. My dad was a composer, but in my house we had Help and Hard Day's Night and Rubber Soul.
Wow.
I can remember those albums when I was a kid. I think I've still got them, actually. I think I nicked them. Don't tell my mum. She'll never know. I've got them. The original mono.
Simon's mum, if you're watching, he didn't nick them.
Mum, much. But but so I grew up with those, because obviously I was born in 1958, so 65. Obviously, I remember those records. They're fantastic records, and the sound, and they are fantastic records. I think the other thing you forget is, of course, up to Sergeant Pepper's, Sergeant Pepper's was done in mono to start with. It wasn't released as a stereo mix straight away. It was a mono.
This was my first Beatles album that I had. Beatles for Sale.
Beatles for Sale, yeah. Is that? But you didn't have it. I presume you had it on record, not on CD.
Yeah, on record. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. Yeah, because I grew up with them as well, and then we had Sergeant Pepper's as well in the house when I was probably 10. Yeah. So I've grown up with those records, so they're beautiful records. But I mean, fantastically done as well. And
can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? Being the son of a composer, so we're celebrating 50 years of Abbey Road later on. So when you look back over 50 years and you think, wow, that's a long time. But when I have a look back at my own life and realize, well, actually 30 years ago, I started listening to it. So it was only 20 years old when I was listening to it. Are we going to be listening to this music in another 50 years' time, Simon?
We are. Oh, completely. Yeah. So, these things, and, because I'm old, but, I think a lot of that music that made around, the late 60s and early 70s completely has, a kind of a life, Pink Floyd, Bob Dylan, people are never not going to be listening to those people. I mean, the interesting thing about this gig that I've just been talking about is that it's done like a classical music gig.
Wow.
So basically, you're taking, every single track and you are reproducing it as exactly as you can. So, when you're playing Beethoven's Fifth, what you're doing is you're reproducing what Beethoven wrote. You haven't got a chance to hear the original material, but, and that's what you're doing. And there's a thing about, I don't know if you've heard this, that there are musicians who are creative, but the people who do that reproduction of things they call themselves technicians more than they call themselves musicians. Sure. And I can see why. I think it's a good description myself. But it's that kind of exact reproduction down to the the minutiae of what instruments and percussion bits and all sorts of things is a kind of technician role, not a kind of creative role. And I think that if people are doing that already, and they are doing it already with the Beatles, then they've moved into that space. And I absolutely think people will be listening to those things in a way that nice one, Mitch. Mitch Heyman went to see Help, watched it 3 times in a row. This is pretty cool. That's very cool. I don't think I saw this a little bit.
How do we translate coolness, Simon? I want to ask you this. So in 100 years' time, we're going to have the music clearly. Beethoven, we've got the music. Now, I don't know much about Beethoven. Was Beethoven cool? The Beatles and the Rolling Stones are cool. Yeah. We know they're cool. I never saw them live. I saw Paul McCartney, but I never saw the Beatles. I've seen the Rolling Stones, but I never saw them at their height.
No.
And we like music and we love music and we understand what cool is. How do you translate cool in 150 years' time?
Yeah. Well, I think that's an interesting question. I don't know if you can, but I think those things. I mean, it'd be interesting. See, that point comes when, a bit like the First World War or Second World War. When the last person who remembers, it firsthand, like you and me or whatever, when we're all dead, and then people are just discovering it. Yeah. So it's just out there in the ether, and people will come along and they'll just discover it, yeah, in a way that somebody will take you. You take your children to a concert. You take you put something on as they find a record and put it on. They find a CD and put it on or whatever, and they play it and they go, So, I mean, it's into that premise. I mean, that thing about there's a film at the moment, isn't there? There's the film out called Yesterday, which is
right.
it's not
No
the
one's
cool premise.
no one's heard of the Beatles.
But they get obliterated from history, and everybody else doesn't. It's all right, but it's not as good as Coldplay. It's one of those.
I'll see it. I'll see it because I'm a Beatles nut. I can't wait.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to be very good. But I think in terms of old composers being cool, I think I don't know about Beethoven. Not necessarily. Well, it's too difficult to say whether he was cool or not. I think Mozart was cool. Definitely. Bit of a punk, bit of a
Yeah.
but also a genius. Completely.
Yeah.
But for me, the interesting about those guys, not necessarily, is that they pretty much a lot of it, their stuff that they did, was written to order. So they had patrons, like the Duke of Saxony or whatever, would be their patron. So he would pay them. But he'd say, "I'm having a dinner party on Tuesday. Knock up some tunes for me." So they go and knock up some tunes for them, And if you were lucky, they were really good, and they've lasted. But if you think about it, for every Mozart there'll be a lot of other composers who worked, whose names were much less well known. And I mean, what's the name of the composer who was overshadowed by Mozart and was kind of jealous of? I can't remember his name. But there's a professional rivalry and jealousy. But yeah, I mean, I think that. But so going back to the Beatles, I think they'll be played in 200 years' time, and I think they'll still be recognised as being one of the greatest music makers from that period that there ever was. Because there's film of them. You can understand the context of the times they were working in, and I think that's that because we understand that, and because there's film, every generation there's more material with which you can judge people.
That's one of the sad things that we don't have with the whole Abbey Road album. We don't have much footage of them recording or that era, which is a bit of a shame. But look, I tend to agree with you. I kind of think in 150 years' time, a 16-year-old's going to put Beatles for Sale and hear the first chords to No Reply and go, "Wow."
Wow, yeah.
Wow.
Because
what is this?
I still go wow. That first chord to Hard Day's Night,
Yeah, wow.
Made of us goes. It still has a freshness, a thrill, an energy to it that transmits across time.
And people write books on what that chord is, Simon. Articles.
I know, yeah.
They have lectures. They have lectures on it.
Isn't it? So I mean, I've played that chord, and my memory is
which version?
Well, I was going to say
the
I don't know if this is right,
fourth version.
But three of us played a chord. So one of us played, I think it was D actually. One of us played D, one of us played something else, and one of us played something else. And somehow between us all, that was the chord. You go, really? Three of them? There's only two guitarists in the Beatles. Can't have been three.
Don't forget the bass too, because the bass was playing an F or something.
The bass plays on, So
different theories. I love it. Good for the nerds.
Yeah, different is what we play. Yeah. I don't know, but yes, I as I said, I have played. I think Ariel Posen showed us what the three bits of the chord was supposed to be, so we could play it just for a laugh. But I suppose you could do the three bits on a bit of tape at the beginning because it's a bit on its own, isn't it? And then, but just a couple of funny things from Abbey Road. Can you imagine John Lennon arrives to record Abbey Road, it's historical, arrives and insists on having a hospital bed put up so that Yoko Ono can lie in it while he's recording. Can you imagine the friction? Quite astonishing. With the other members of the band, oh, really, John, stop it now. So that's a conversation
they deserve they deserve a pat on the back and recognition for realising that this was certainly, without saying, from all the information I've read, Simon, they never spoke about this being the last album, but they all knew when they were
they all knew that it was.
They knew that this was it without them saying it.
Yeah, the fact that it came out before Let It Be is to me it's the last after. So I mean, I think that it's an astonishing record, and that there's the medley and the second side and stuff like that, and things that it's just beautiful stuff, and really still stretching out, still exploring new musical horizons, and which is why I think that you can go from No Reply up to that medley, and you can see there's a massive leap in the in the sophisticated creativity. But even so, what was it? I was watching a Rick Beato thing the other day about I think it was Katy Perry. I think Katy Perry versus Flame. Lady Gaga. It was Lady Gaga, I think, and he was talking about how unsophisticated pop music is now. The chord 1 4 5 6. That's it.
Correct.
And then he played. I can't remember which Beatles song he played, but he played it just this little descending thing, and he said, "This is so much more sophisticated than anything there is now."
And the Beatles
this is
were
a bloody
pop
rock
band.
Yeah, pop band. Make and yet what he's saying is that the ear. This become less sophisticated now than it ever was. And if you play the Beatles thing, would it be a hit now? I can't remember which one it was, but it had like lovely descending kind of chord.
But Simon, you and I have mentioned this before on a lot of shows. You got to remember too that the listeners back then, and this is no disrespect to the listeners now, were more sophisticated. They were listening to something that demanded their attention.
Yeah, and it's coming out of the sort of the swing jazz stuff, isn't it? Frank Sinatra and all of that stuff, which is pretty sophisticated musically. And morning, Jack Daniels, and how you doing? So I think that sophistication is you're absolutely, it carries over from into and obviously George Martin is from that previous era of sophistication, and so that making things like that 1 5 4 4 yes but it's very interesting that that
well, it's fascinating that song
that you think of that sophistication as normal,
and they construct. They're all three Beatles are playing a guitar part in that song.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't know that for years, Simon. I didn't know that. I thought I was listening to George Harrison playing differently.
Yeah. In fact, it's Paul McCartney playing as well, is he? Guitar.
Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and George Harrison are each playing 8 bars or whatever on that. And I didn't know that until I was in my 20s. And I got told that by some guy who was a Beatles nut who read it somewhere, and it wasn't common knowledge. Well, certainly not in my circle of friends. And now you can get books where 200 pages have been written discussing.
What's he called? Mark Lewisham. Lewisham. You come across those books? Yeah, Mark Lewisham. Yeah. Yes, astonishing books they are.
Oh my gosh. and he's only written part 1 of that definitive,
That's right. Yeah.
which is thicker than my 3 Bibles together, Simon. He's got part
three Bibles.
he-
Are they
he's
all
got part-
different?
different versions. So he's got part 2 and part 3 to come.
Yeah. So I like the idea of there being 3 different Bibles with 3 different things in them. Wait a minute. That's a tricky question for you, isn't it?
Yeah, but the
But amazing. I mean, Mark Lewisham
Oh.
is just astonishing, you know, and that level of scholarship. And yeah, Jack, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. George Martin cannot be underestimated in his influence on the Beatles and what they did, and you know how they wrote and how they recorded. You know, he's not called the 5th Beatle for nothing, is he?
That's right.
Yes, completely. But I think there's also, you know, we can't underestimate their creativity and going, you know, what's one of those? Can we use it? You know, kind of thing. And so I'm just trying to find Lewis. Oh, there we are. Really? Yes. So I'm just trying to see what Beatles. I can't remember he's done. He must have another one coming out soon.
I check regularly. There's been no publishing date.
Right.
The first part came out about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Volume 1 was published in October 2013.
Yeah, a few years ago.
So in an interview, and estimated the second volume will be published in 2020, and the third one in 2028. About the time he turned 70. Bloody hell, fire. Oh yes. However, in August 2018, Lewisham tweeted it was way too early to say he would be able to publish Volume 2, which is that's quite funny. He could be 85 when he does the last one. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? His magnum opus. He doesn't.
Well,
there we are. That's part 1.
And he interviews the butcher,
Baker, the candlestick maker. Yes.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal. It's phenomenal the research that's gone into this thing. Clearly, it's a labor of love, and it can only be written by a fan, because.
Oh yeah.
It has to be. So this particular issue, volume, ends in 62. Sorry, hold on. No.
Before they started, yes.
Yeah, 62. So.
Yeah,
it ends in 1962.
We have a question from the chat. Jason Wade, Andrew, put you on the spot. Go on.
Oh, Clapton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yes. What's better? I don't know. I think Clapton is the more virtuoso guitar player.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, he played on something, didn't he? But whether George Harrison was the best guitar player in the Beatles.
Sure.
You know, and fitted those Beatles songs. You know, you can't imagine not having. You know, can't imagine if you had Eric Clapton and the Beatles instead of George Harrison, he wouldn't be the Beatles, would he?
No.
You know,
no. And just
and
like
that's
Clapton
part of the magic.
Could never be a Stone. You know,
well, indeed, yeah. Couldn't really do that as a sort of band project. And I would say that Harrison was the best guitarist for the Beatles. Yeah. And that's a retrospective thing, so it's easy to say. But I think, you know, I know he doesn't. It's a great question, Jason. Dad, making us wriggle. That's good.
Look, I have no problem offering my opinion. I just had a conversation a couple of days ago with a friend at work who was asking me whether or not I rate Jimi Hendrix over Stevie Ray Vaughan or Stevie Ray
Wow.
Vaughan over Jimi Hendrix, you know.
Really?
And I said,
Wow.
well, I said, well, for me personally, I like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I love his guitaring
Yeah.
style. But am I saying that Stevie Ray Vaughan is a better guitarist than Jimi Hendrix? When I said before, that Clapton, who's the better guitarist? Well, who's the better guitarist for me? I suppose in my mind is, yeah. I don't have a problem offering an opinion.
No, I think I think you're right. I think that for me, probably Hendrix is more innovative,
Yeah,
innovative than Stevie Ray. I would say.
sure.
Not
No
that
argument.
but yeah. But that's a that's a slightly different argument. But yes, who do you like? Who do you like the best? Is
Yeah.
the question is, well, I like Stevie Ray Vaughan the best, and that's fine,
Yeah.
and there's no argument with that. That's because that's your opinion. But
Well, but talking about
agree,
Hendrix,
Jason. Yeah,
what we have to remember is that when Hendrix was using the guitar, it was still a new instrument. He was still doing stuff with it in the studio because it was this new instrument. It was, everything was centered around the Stratocaster.
Yeah. Talking of time, when you were talking about it being 50 years of Abbey Road, I was just thinking one of the things is fun to do is to go. We are 50 years forward from Abbey Road. Yeah. Go back 50 years before Abbey Road. Where are you?
Wow.
You're in 1920. You're in
What a
1920.
What a
If you think about, 1920. You release something in 1920, and it's still going in 1970.
Not much.
You
much
think what was
time.
happening? What was
Not
happening
much.
in 1920? Post the First World War. Just kind of getting in. Jazz was just beginning.
Ragtime.
Yeah, ragtime. Still, the 20s. Just only really starting. That sort of jazz thing. New Orleans jazz in the 20s. And yet, and then you compare that, to what happened from 1920 to 1970, and then 1970 to now. It's amazing, isn't it? We could have lived through the other bits, not this bit.
Yeah. Well, you look at the jazz, that New Orleans ragtime jazz that they were playing compared to the stuff that Miles Davis was doing in '58, miles ahead, and then he went into Kind of Blue. It's just no comparison. And then Bitches Brew came along. And it's just wow.
Yeah, just amazing. Yeah, explosion of kind of. Those things are fun. I mean, if you think 1980, the amount of music between 1955 and 1980, and that's 25 years.
What a great
that 25 years.
Can I pinch and then can I use that?
Yeah. But then if you think of 25 years going forward from 1980, that's only 2005.
Yeah.
And you think, that you compare those from Elvis to 1980, it's like, and yet, by 1970, Elvis was you're right. Yeah, Jason. Yeah, Robert Johnson was just emerging, but yes, probably, in the, and none of it, if you think about the difference in music between Elvis in 25 years from Elvis to 1980, and then 1980 to 2005. Those, we are further away from 1980 than Elvis was. We're 40 years away from 1980 now, and Elvis was only 25 years from 1980. And yet, if I think about, looking at it, because I obviously grew up in, from the early 70s, in the early 70s, you talk about Elvis in 72, 73, as a kind of has-been, really.
Sure. He was
rock and roll.
Was he cool? Was he cool? He wasn't cool, was he?
He was. He was cool because he did that, the comeback bit
in '68.
Yeah, '68. So he did have a period of sort of cool then. But I think by the early '70s he was viewed as a Las Vegas act.
Sure.
And in the early '70s, rock cool canon. No, he was a Vegas act. You know,
Mm.
he was kind of old Vegas. But and that's less than 20 years after he started.
Wow.
It just gives you an idea about 20 years after he started, he was gone. Whereas 20 years now, well, that's 1999. Nearly 2000 for us. If you think about what was going on in 2000, what's going on now, probably just a continuum of increasingly not. I would say that not very good stuff, but rather than an explosion of creativity and youth culture and stuff.
So, do
The
you
like
remember
of
that?
which.
Do you remember that YouTube clip that I showed you where this guy is playing computer music and he's in this big auditorium somewhere, and it's this light show, and young people are just standing there dancing. Obviously, there's drugs being involved.
Surely not.
And I'm just I sent that to you and to Carl to obviously to
Yeah,
get your guys'
yeah.
opinion, and I'm just going. Am I that old? So I just don't get it. So I don't get it. Yeah.
Oh, Wednesday store. Hey, Dave.
Oh man,
How you doing?
Dave,
Hope you're
you need
good.
to come on next
Yes,
week
Dave, you need to come on
and tell us about your Abbey Road trip.
and tell it. Yes, that would be really cool. Following on from my nonsense and stop us talking.
Drugs,
Yeah,
what are those?
Jason. Yeah, I think these days look, Vegas has kind of changed. If Aerosmith are playing at Vegas, there's a kind of change there. But it's yes, because it's become a business and it's money, isn't it? I mean, well, you see, that's why Colonel Tom Parker booked Elvis into Vegas because it was the money. He was interested in the money. And not letting him out of the country.
Hmm.
It's drugs. What are those? Yes. Never heard of them, Jason. Keep away from them. It's yeah, or they're all keeping us alive, which is the other thing. Yes, Dave, we need to come on, man, and tell us your Abbey Road trip. That would be really cool and stuff. And yeah, and just at the end of this gig thing, they did they did the whole of Abbey Road, and then they said, well, "We've got a bit of a surprise." And so they went from Studio 2 to Studio 1 and played some more songs in Studio 1.
Wow.
And apparently it was because it was mainly a Dutch audience. So they went away and they went into the other studio and played some other songs in the other studio, which is really cool, isn't it? It's I think the thing you forget about is that obviously if they're set up in those rooms and they've got an audience, those rooms are big rooms, aren't they?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to get for Dave to tell us, But if you've got an audience in there and you've got, so 10 or 15 musicians with kit, several electronic harpsichords and things, that you need quite a lot of space, don't you? They must have been big rooms, not these tiny little, and that interesting thing of record, the space that recording in those big rooms gives you. You're recording with, you're not. Well, they must have done some DIing, but for most part, it would have been microphones, wouldn't it? Miking things up, miking pianos up, miking drums up, and whatever. And the ambience of those rooms, the size and the space and the reverb in those rooms, the natural reverb, must be completely different to putting you in a small dead room now, and then adding it all on later.
Yeah.
Which I guess is, I'm sure is what happens now. You get put in a soundproof booth, don't you? And you pummel away to a click track. If you're lucky, you've got a live drummer, and and then you do all the production post. It's like the guitars, isn't it? You record the guitars all clean, and then you decide what those guitars are going to sound like, and you put all the distortion, reverb, chord, whatever else you're going to put on them, post recording. Whereas obviously, then you were recording what was coming out of the amp, so it was all done pre. And I'm sure that gives them an ambience and a feel and Oh right, Dave says he only went into Studio 2 and the echo chamber in the control room. So Dave,
Wow.
was it a big room? I assume it's quite a big room. Am I wrong? But yeah, I think that's those recording days. That's what makes us part of what we discuss this a lot. But part of what makes those records so great is that even if you're putting them together, you're going out and John's going to sit down at a piano or whatever, and he's going to play, and he's got a microphone, and he's in this big room with his natural amp and stuff like that. Gives you an ambience, gives you a recorded thing that is Julian N still recording or strictly to photography? I don't know, Jason.
No, he's not
I haven't
recording.
seen it. I haven't seen him do a record for years, so I presume he's doing photography.
Yeah. He's yeah.
He doesn't need the money, does he?
No.
Sorry, I was a cynical boy. Shut up. Well, it's true, isn't it? But so and takes us back to last week's thing where we talk about Glyn Johns. That his way of and he did a lot of recording. Didn't he? He did some stuff for Let It Be. Didn't he? I mean, he did an album because Let It Be. What he did is he put together a much more straightforward rock and roll album and presented it to them and said, here's my take on it. I don't think they were that keen on it, so they gave it to Phil Spector. What did he say, Cletus? After he vomited all over it.
I think the Beatles wanted to give it to Phil. I think they wanted to be part of this circle that was happening, and I think that push came from. I could be wrong. I can't remember, but
No, I
but
think
I
that's
think
right.
I think the push came from Paul McCartney to give it to Phil to be cool.
Yeah. So Dave, yeah, that's right. So Dave says 2 is big, but Studio 1 is bigger. 1 is used mainly by orchestras for films and computer game soundtracks and stuff. So yeah, if you get an orchestra in there, it's big, isn't it? It's a big room, lots of ambience, lots of and then but if you're going to set up Ringo Starr in the corner and get him to record, and you've got a room mic over the top, and you've got one on the bass drum, one on the snare, and I can't remember, one on the toms. I think he had as well, didn't he? The 4 mic setup, as I remember. But you're gonna get a whole kind of room ambience thing that's going to be quite special, isn't it? I mean, present yourself, Andrew. Present yourself so we can.
Oh, yeah, hold on.
So
Dave.
No, that's me. A man without photographs. Is he gone? Oh God, he's gone. I'm left on my own. That's quite frightening. Oh well. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot. A lot to be said. Now we're all gone. Oh no, I'm back.
Yeah, hold on. Okay.
Oh, he's coming back. What happened? We're still there. We are. What happened there?
How do I present me? Oh, there we go. All right.
There you go.
So Dave. So can you see that there? That's Abbey Road. Apparently. Hold on.
Turn it around the other way. Turn it around the other way, Andrew. It's because we're seeing the other page close up rather than the. No. Yeah, we're still looking at the right. Yeah, the page with the black writing on it. Okay. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
So that's an Abbey Road day.
So are those black things amps, Andrew? Are they amps? The 2 black things, towers. They're amps. So yeah, you can see, they set up in this big room. Lots of. Yeah, it's very dangerous, Jason. Frankly. But yeah, you can see, that kind of amazing kind of ambience that they have in that, in that room. Yeah, there we are. Let's see. What's that? Kettle drums and stuff, and
and Ringo in the corner there.
See Ringo in the corner, just what I was saying, setting him up in the corner, and Jack. I don't think you need to be. I don't think you need to. You can crank the amps up in any room you like. Now they put stuff in, in soundproof boxes, don't they? Speakers, so you can turn everything up really loud and nobody can hear it, kind of thing. But you don't get that ambient kind of reverb and stuff like that. Them doors to the echo chamber. So, Dave, I'm interested in that. How does the echo chamber work? If it's an entire room, do you open it?
Wow.
Do you send the sound to it? That's like not even a quarter of the space. No. Yeah, thank you, Jack.
So was it
ISO
literally
cabs,
a bomb
yes.
shelter?
Yeah.
Was it really a bomb shelter?
What? So you went in there? Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm very interested about echo room. Anyway, hopefully an echo chamber with a different room. Hopefully, Dave can tell us how it works. See, Dave, you have to come on, otherwise you're typing.
Yeah, you have to come on.
Get typing. Come on, we're on the clock here.
Yeah. We'll send you. Are you home? If you're home, I'll send you an invite.
Yeah. Come on, tell us about it.
Message me your
we can
email.
question you closely. Wasn't every building in London a bomb shelter? Well, more like bomb damage. Jack actually run the bomb shelter. Every house had a
we
bomb
can't
shelter.
Forget that.
No, in the garden. Amazing, yeah. See, that's interesting. See, the end of the Second World War to Abbey Road is 25 years. If you think about that.
Sorry, Simon?
The end of the Second World War to Abbey Road was 25 years.
Wow.
45 to 70 is 25 years. I.e. 70 to 95. Or 95 to now. I mean, it's just, I love thinking about those things, those time things, what happened between 25 years after the end of the war, you'd had, Sergeant Pepper's, Abbey Road, Blonde on Blonde, Highway 61, all that, he had a musical explosion in that 10 years, the like of which, we've never seen and probably never see again. Now, if you think about 95 to now, there has not been the same musical explosion. And, it's been a musical implosion, I might argue. See, Dave's run away now, see.
Did the war have an effect on that?
I think the war was a watershed.
Many times about how England was bleak and horrible, and then they were looking at stuff from America and big cars, colour, and then that had an effect on them to talk about and write about and sing songs about optimism.
Yeah. But I also think that the people who came after the war had there was a kind of post-war optimism that it couldn't get any worse. They've been through a really dark time, and as the economy picked up post-war, into the 50s, 10 years after the war had finished, that it gave people, that sense of optimism and that sense of we can do anything, pervades everything, doesn't it? Pervades that whole entire era. From President Kennedy saying we're going to land a man on the moon before the end of the 60s, and they did.
Well, your country, your country realised that they needed to get colour, so you guys started art schools. Well, most of these guys that we talk about came from.
Yeah, art schools came into being. My point exactly that sense of openness to lots of things. Kids growing up post-war, who'd grown up in the war, like Keith Richards and stuff. Suddenly going, God, we've had austerity, we've had food rationing and rationing all sorts, and yeah, you're right, Jack. Yeah, it's although I'd argue the punk was maybe a different thing, but in many ways, and has echoes of now. But it well, I think in terms of it being a DIY thing, and now,
Yeah.
as we were talking about last week, I think music is on some level is a very DIY thing. You can make an album on your computer. Now that's a different kind of DIY to to a punk DIY, but in the punk thing, you went into a studio for a day. You recorded 2 singles that you'd written. 3 called Wonders. Isn't that by somebody? 1 called Wonders by the and you mixed them, and then you took them off, and you got somebody to do 500 of them or something, and then you had a release. It's called start your own record label, put them in envelopes in your front room, and kind of send them off. And I think it's a different kind of now. As I say, you can do it on a laptop, but it's still a DIY thing, and still in the reach of thousands of people. And the fact you don't need to produce a physical product, you can put it on Spotify. You can go do a DistroKid thing for whatever it is, $10 a month or whatever, and your music can be released. It's put on all those platforms, and people can discover it. That to me is very DIY and very, egalitarian in many ways. The fact that what it sounds like and what it is different inevitably. But I'm interested in that. Yes, I mean, absolutely, Jack. I agree with that. Listen to Rick Beato saying the power of the studios is now gone. It's been replaced by power of the online streaming companies. Yeah, and they decide. Yeah, there's a certain element of they decide. But, lots of people I know are doing it on a DIY basis. Ariel Posen, he released an album this year. Done by himself, distributed by himself, and using social media to promote it and stuff like that, which is outside streaming services. Chris Buck, Buck and Evans, they still haven't officially released it, although I've got it. But lots of people have got it. But on CD stuff, but they've got plays on Planet Rock and things like that. Loads of plays on Planet Rock. They were like one of the records of the week on Planet Rock for one of their tracks, and they're using. He's a fantastic player, Ariel. Sit up close, Jack. It's twice as amazing. They're both really good. They're just examples of them because I obviously know them because I've been on this Guitar Breaks holiday with them. But they're good examples of people who are, releasing music, original music, on their, under their own steam, doing it their way on a DIY basis, and being able to. Not entirely, but being able to approach making some sort of living at it. They have to do other stuff as well, which is inevitable. But because being a musician these days is about having. Although to be honest, it's always been like that. What am I talking about? In the old days, I'll give you a funny example. My dad was a composer, and he. When I was a kid, we lived in the country in the UK. In Dorset, and so whilst composing, we also kept pigs. So we had like pigs that my dad, it's kind of funny. As a kind of Arvin, good morning. How you doing? Hope you're good. Nice to see you. So that's quite funny. So I think musicians have always had other jobs. I think that Chris and Ariel and lots of other people, those jobs are more integrated into their musical being, but they're doing, they're doing demonstrations of things. They're doing, they do some videos for Andertons and stuff, and they do, other demos, and they go to Boss, and Boss will employ them to do some work. And Chris has just been doing some stuff for Fender. He just did a thing in Glasgow. In fact, hats off to him. Making a living at it. And wouldn't we all like to make a living at it? The fact that it's not all just about selling stuff and creating music is the interesting. But you're right, Jason. It is astonishing. It's astonishing that me and Andrew, we've managed to hook up to do a show together, and we live as far apart in the world as you can. So well done us for we're on opposite sides of the earth from each other, and yet we can do a show like that. I guess I think it's fantastic fun. Yeah, but again, you see, I mean, you can think of the YouTube thing like that. There are those people who make, we're just like a bunch of people going down the pub.
Sure.
But the fact that we're not in the same continent or the same hemisphere or the same anything these days doesn't make any difference. We're using YouTube as a very, egalitarian, leveling way of having a chat. Getting some opinions, getting some, having a, doing something, which I think is fantastic. As a thing.
The good thing about this forum, using this forum, is that you're finding people that share the same interest as you, which is a lot easier in a roundabout kind of way. Because if I go to the pub, there's probably going to be no one there that likes the Beatles or the Rolling Stones, as an example, or Clapton. So I'm going to spend 2 hours talking about rugby league that I don't particularly enjoy.
Not particularly go for. Yeah.
But you're going to be polite, and and you're going to drink your beer and and then go home and kick the cat. But the good thing about social media is I found Simon. Simon found me. We've got Carl. I know Jason. I'm a regular viewer of Jason's channel. I know Arvin. Arvin's offered lots of support and lots of great comments in the chat, and we all share the same passion for that 60s, 70s music.
Completely, yeah. Or music in general. And it doesn't really matter, to me, it doesn't really matter. Bring your passion, bring what you're interested in. Let's talk about it. None of us know everything. And I think one of the great joys is, bring up a topic and then, we can have a research about it. We can have a look, and kind of actually dig into it a bit and learn some stuff and learn some new stuff, it's, from my point of view, learning about stuff, you don't have to take it all in, don't have to be into it all, I'm interested in what other people's passions are, and what they like, what you like at it, and stuff like that.
Always talk about the All Blacks.
Going through a bit of a rough patch at the moment, aren't they? The All Blacks.
We thrashed the Aussies last night, 30.
Oh, did they? Oh, they got what the Aussies having thrashed them a couple of weeks ago, didn't they? Yeah, getting them back.
Yeah. Wasn't that much of a thrashing by the Aussies, but it was going to happen.
At some point,
the Aussies have only got one good game and 10 against the All Blacks.
Right, the other 9.
But no, I agree with you, Simon. When I was growing up, and even now, you meet someone and say, do you like music? No. Okay. All right. Well, we're not going to have much to talk about then socially.
Jack Daniels is an Australian. Oh dear.
Yeah. But that's my preference. I'll talk politics. For sure. But my passion is
guitars.
Music and guitars.
Yeah. Jason, I completely agree. Yes. I mean, I have hilariously sort of cultural, because I'm 61. My cultural references. I have people in my team who are in their 30s and 40s who have no idea what I'm talking about. The old which one's pink. I've had that a few times. Who's Jimmy Page? Oh, okay. Let's go back a bit. C-, see me afterwards.
Simon, I've been reading a digital version. I've ordered the hard copy of Experiencing Led Zeppelin, and I'm familiar with that series. I've got Experiencing the Rolling Stones. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you, I'm slowly putting aside my prejudice about Led Zeppelin being rip-off merchants aside. If you focus too much on that can cloud the fact that these guys were revolutionary. They were breaking boundaries, man.
Indeed, and yeah, I mean, I mean, all these lawsuits that are happening at the moment. There's where I mean, my favorite, the Lady Gaga one, is just hilarious because it's three notes. It's just an ascending three-note thing, and you're going, "Is that it?"
Da. How
Yeah,
can, how, da, da, da.
that's not copyrightable, And then and it just seemed to have gone completely bonkers. I mean, the I don't know if you saw this. The Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams have to pay Marvin Gaye's estate $5 million on the grounds that one of the judges said that they're not the two songs. There's not the same melody or harmony or rhythm, but the same vibe. It's like the same feel. It's like, so you can copyright a feel.
A vibe.
It bewilders me. I was like, no, and I think it's just, people out there trying to run at it and make some, it's, yeah, I mean, the Katy Perry and the Flame thing is the same thing, There's one thing that sounds vaguely similar. They're not quite the same, they're the same with the sound, but, the rest of it is completely different. And you think, at what level are people operating at? But I mean, in the old days, I mean, you're right, Led Zeppelin, there. But in a sense, all those blues guys copied stuff from their others. I mean, I don't think, it's, let's face it. I mean, how many, if you thought about it in that sense, if you went down and said, every single rock and roll record, I mean, Chuck Berry could have sued everybody else, or everybody else could have sued Chuck Berry, because that 12-bar blues, that dun 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 dun, is the basis of every single rock and roll record you ever heard, isn't it? Every single one you can think of. You can play them to that, and on that basis, everyone would be suing everyone else. And yet, the little bits that make it unique are the little bits, what you're singing and, make it unique. But actually, the melodies are incredibly similar. The chord structures are the same. The solos are incredibly similar,
What's the quote, Jason? Do you know the quote, Simon? Malcolm McLaren's quote on Led Zeppelin?
Malcolm Young. What did Malcolm Young? What did he say about it? What bunch of rip-off blues merchants or something? But all right. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, Jack, you're right. See, Berry's copyright 145. Yeah, we left a couple of songs. We left after a couple of songs. Singer was a blonde fella, bit of a poser.
Yeah, I'm a bit like Wednesday Store, like Dave. I'm a bit like I was on the fence with Led Zeppelin. Obviously we love their work and their albums, but I was always the first guy to say, well, look, they ripped these guys off intentionally, unlike Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton. But I think we have to put them now with a bit of time. We have to put them into context. We have to look at what Jimmy Page was doing as a producer, as an arranger as well, and probably take him at his word. He was hearing this stuff for a lot of years, and he was writing what he thought was.
Well, you assimilate it, don't you? You assimilate it, and I think that going back to the early 70s, that and the late 60s, all those blues bands, and there are everybody, 10 years after. Rory Gallagher, Taste, and all those things. They're writing stuff in what was better. We haven't recorded 12 albums in it's 13. Yeah, I've seen that, Jack. Yeah, it's 13. Not taking this too seriously. It's such a great Aussie comment, isn't it? Yeah, fella was a blonde fella. The singer was a blonde fella, bit of a poser. We left after 2 numbers. That's my review of Led Zeppelin. Well done. But that's fine. But the Rolling Stones took bits from blues people. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's fine. But it's the whole thing. Is it? Don't expect. Why not everyone is going to like any of it. Not everyone's going to like Led Zeppelin. Not everyone's going to. I think, of course, they borrow stuff, and that, they've had to acknowledge it,
Sure.
where they got their things, and now the songs are being more correctly ascribed to people, and things, but, I think that all those bands, all of them, you're either doing a cover version of something, or you're trying to do your own thing. I mean, but all those blues guys on Muddy Waters, they they didn't make up all those riffs themselves. They got them from here, there, and everywhere and things. And to me,
they
it's
were
just the
acoustic
natural
riffs, Simon, that they played on their electric guitars.
electric guitars, yeah. And let's be fair, you hear those riffs and they come again and they come again, don't they? The bits that you play and stuff, and they become sort of cliches and things, and so I don't think that Led Zeppelin did anything any different. If you've been in that world in the '60s, the last, as you say, Jimmy Page, Clapton, play, let's face it, Jeff Beck, did Led Zeppelin before Led Zeppelin. Truth album is, and yet, it's. I know, so I think that that it's fine. That they pay some money for those old blues guys things, stuff. But as I say, I kind of agree. As you're assimilating all that stuff, and you're assimilating it, and then you get in a room and start doing things, and you're going to play kind of things that you might have heard and assimilated in the past, aren't you? And then are you going to go back and see if somebody else has done it? I think you just get on with it, don't you? I mean, they just, in those days, you record an album in 2 weeks, kind of thing, and
literally, in 2 weeks.
So and then you put it out, and then you're on to, and then 6 months later, you're doing the second album and stuff like that, and I think that. Yeah, I mean, that's a classic thing about. I don't know if you've heard it. There's a Jethro Tull song that's got the same chord sequence as Hotel California.
Wow.
If you want, now, but Ian Anderson was like, yeah, so it's got the same chords. It sounds vaguely the same. They were on tour with us. Did they nick it? Possibly. Whatever. That's how pop music works. You're recycling, reassimilating, changing things that, it's yes, that's right, Jason. Yeah, see, you're not playing anything original that someone else hasn't played before. You just haven't heard it with your ears, So, well, yes, all right, Jack. Yeah, the Led Zeppelin Taurus case is going to be heard again in September in San Francisco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they haven't accepted the Spirit haven't accepted the state.
That sounds like when I first heard that, I thought, wow, man, this is a rip-off.
Yeah, but the interesting part about that is, I mean, if you want to watch Rick Beato's video on it, because he's very interesting about it. About that it's having an ascending and a descending thing together. Is at what point, so the Taurus thing is a descending thing, it's a descending riff, The Stairway to Heaven has an ascending and a descending bit at the same time, So at what point is it different? Well, if you've got, you've changed it so that it's got an ascending and a descending bit at the same time, to me that's different. And if you go to Rick Beato, he's going, well, they're not really the same thing at all. A descending, set of chords or, picked chords is, it can go on hundreds of songs.
So how did they win a right to appeal then? Was it on the Vibe then, maybe, Simon?
Well, and that's a very interesting point. Is are you actually going to be going? Well, we're going to sue you on the Vibe or whatever, or the feels. I was like,
on the
complete madness. Yeah, you're right, Jack. I mean, something. When has that descending melody. It's it's the same descending thing as Taurus. We're not seeing the Beatles being sued by spirits, kind of thing for using. Yeah, I think these things are, that really no one from Led Zeppelin.
If Led Zeppelin loses, how much will they have to pay out?
Well, Yeah, quite a lot. If they, I don't know, Dave is saying no one from Led Zeppelin will pay 1 penny if that case wins or loses from my research. So I don't know what he's doing. I mean, but interestingly, yeah, they might have to pay a lot of money for it, but it depends when, you see. Is it going forward? Is it historical? Is it, how does it all work? But, these things, you know, right, copyright and patent the 145. But yes, that's right. Quick, Jason saying, yeah, I should copyright and patent the 145 progression and get rich. Yeah, sue everyone else who's ever used it.
Oh, so they sold their catalogue, so that means they don't own it.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay. Really? Blimey, surprised by that. But maybe they must retain control of it. But maybe they did as part of some record deal they did or sort of thing later on.
Wow.
It's someone else who probably not pays your plants. No, maybe not. But I don't. It's. I think we're in. These things. I mean, the three modern ones that we've been talking about. I mean, it's. We seem to have got in very dangerous territory, and that territory where, that sort of. Experts and stuff are not, really. I mean, they have kind of music. I mean, the Led Zeppelin one was really weird, wasn't it? Because they did it all on the sheet music, which was very odd. I didn't really understand what that was all about, but probably some legal thing. But I feel that it's in this. If you, as I say, go back to the 60s, go back to the 50s. Nobody accuses, I don't know, Carl Perkins of ripping off Chuck Berry or whatever, and yet those chord changes and those, they're all interchangeable with each other. Yet nobody says, well, Carl Perkins ripped off, it kind of, or somebody, Elvis ripped off Chuck Berry or whatever, they were just making, rock and roll is 145, with a solo, and that's how it works. It's a genre,
all
in
the
which you
Buddy
play.
Holly Foundation ripping, taking the Beatles to court because they put a chord sequence in on.
Yeah,
I forget the song, but on a couple of the early songs, and Paul McCartney says, "Well, yeah, we got that off Buddy Holly."
Yeah. Well, and it's 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 a soda bean raid. Good morning.
Soda.
How you doing? We're having a Johnny Beans. Obviously, sent some people over to do a bean raid.
I haven't seen Soda for a while.
No, Soda. How you doing? Hope you're good. I like he's got a soda can for his picture as well. It's pretty cool. So I think it's kind of that these sorts of things, they open you up to to kind of to a sort of world of madness, really. Which never really occurred. As I say, I mean, for me, the Jethro Tull thing. If you go listen to there's an early Jethro, if you Google it, Jethro Tull song that is the same chords as Hotel California, but it's not the same song. And Ian Anderson was like, or whatever, it kind of, they made it something completely different. They did something else with it, wouldn't dream of suing them, kind of thing, Now he's possibly in a lucky position of, not having no money, kind of thing, and but he was very sanguine about it and very kind of, it's just kind of, I wouldn't be suing him.
Well, that's interesting
because it's not the same song.
I hadn't read that recently at all. That they'd won an appeal to go back to court.
They had. Yeah.
When was that set? Well, the court originally said there was no case. Was that early this year?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, maybe last year, but yeah. I mean, the interesting part is, it's obviously, but that was one court, and then they've got leave to yeah. Well, here they get you to appeal. I mean, you get leave to appeal, don't you? As a kind of, Hang on, let's see. If you Google Led Zeppelin versus Spirit, you come up with Rick Beatus is the first one you come up with. But
where I've watched that, Simon. I haven't watched his video on that, so that'll be interesting. When
So,
did he come out with that video?
2018, 30th September 2018.
Yeah, Michael
Before
still
the
owns the Beatles
yeah,
catalog. That's correct.
he does. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, it's but interestingly, September last year, September 2018, a U.S. appeals court has ordered a new trial in the lawsuit accusing Led Zeppelin of copying an obscure 60s instrumental for the intro to their classic rock anthem, Stairway to Heaven.
Wow.
A federal court in Los Angeles found 2 years ago, so that would be 2016, found Led Zeppelin did not steal the famous riff from Taurus, but a 3-panel judge of the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco, snappy title, ruled unanimously that lower court judges provided erroneous jury instructions that misled jurors about copyright law central to the suit. It sent the case back to court for another trial.
Wow.
Kind of thing. It's just,
Wow.
So it'd be going on. And the only people making any money back with the lawyers.
See, Simon, so with my blues 145 progression mind, when I heard that, I thought, wow, rip off.
Yeah. But I think if you go and watch the Rick Beato thing, you'll get a much better idea about I think a much more rounded, opinion of that and about what the Led Zeppelin thing actually does. And you are into the minutiae of it, but that's what you're talking about. And
It's
the
stuff
fact
that we love.
Yes, indeed. The Stairway to Heaven thing has both an ascending and a descending bit, and the spirit bit is only a descending bit. And the fact that they're the same notes, but you could come up with 100 other songs that have the same descending thing. Something has the same descending line.
To testify.
Yeah, they should get him to testify and all. Yeah. But but so you get into the sort of the minutiae and the madness, and who did got what from who, and who got, and and then I mean, they're all doing it in the in the 70s. What was I was reading about somebody who was trying to get his he could put trad R, traditional arranged on his track, so he could quietly claim the copyright on them. So and where do you take this stuff? You enter, as I say, the more modern things, seem to be, if Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams are paying £5 million to Marvin Gaye because the feel of a song, is the same as what's going on. I mean, you just really that, and probably pick up dozens of songs, Sly and the Family Stone and all sorts of people who had the same feel as what's going on. Not specifically, not melody, nor harmony, nor rhythm, not the same. It's like, really? Well, how come you in that case, nothing's out of bounds, is it? And everything's going to be everything's just going to be sued for by by the madness. So I mean, and it goes on with with the other ones. Lady Gaga has just got that 3-note descending thing. It's just bizarre that. Yeah, I think you're right, Jack. Yeah, the opportunity for a bunch of lawyers to get hold of some steroids is too good. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And then we get into the play authentic. Your guitar's the same shape as another, sir. And where did you get that anyway? Oh yes, you got that from somebody else. I mean, the book match headstock and all of that is, it. There is nothing authentic, and people trying to claim authentic. Oh, hang on, we can have that. It's is to me is just madness, really. You get on with doing your own thing and stop messing about. Deciding what you want to do. But, so I think as I say, I think we're in a world of madness, and in those senses, and lawyers are making hay, probably at the expense of lots of other people, really, you know, which I think is. I mean, yeah, all these things are worth looking at. I said Rick Beato is really good on them, really, really good on them. You know, about picking them apart and stuff. And talking of Rick Beato, have you seen his latest "What Makes This Song So Great"?
No.
Angie, he did Angie by the Rolling
Oh
Stones.
yeah, you put the post. I'm going to watch that after I have some dinner.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. We should talk about that next week too, because I'll be looking forward to that.
Brilliant. Yeah, have a look at that. Really good,
awesome.
Really good. Yeah.
I appreciate the heads up.
Yeah. It kind of, restores one's faith in that. It's very well done. But it just makes you appreciate what a beautiful song it is, how beautifully put together it is.
Wow.
And Nicky,
on a generally regarded average album.
Yeah, generally regarded. But it's just you could put out a song like that, you're on it. It's and Nicky Hopkins as well. Nicky Hopkins, they pay particular tribute to Nicky Hopkins, the piano player.
Wow.
It's just fantastic. So that's really that's really worth checking out, because it's really good. And of course, he passed his 1 million subscribers, Mr. Beato. Well done. So hats off to him for that.
Awesome, Simon.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to say.
Yeah, you're going to go and buy dinner this week, or you had to go and buy dinner 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh dear.
It's getting close to 7:30 here, and on Sunday.
Cost you a few dollars.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one funny thing before we go? One amusing.
Yeah, sure.
That just that I heard the other day that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Yeah. I don't know if you know. They played at Altamont. Did you know this? They played with the Rolling Stones at Altamont, right? But ever since then, they only played for about half an hour, and they legged it, right? But they were going to be in the original film, the original Altamont film, made by I can't remember, the brothers. And they even got to the extent, this will make you laugh, of getting David Crosby into the studio, right, to re-record some of his stage announcements, because they hadn't recorded them very well. So they so he was in the stage going, guys, stop fighting, stop that, kind of thing. But they got them to re-record them in the studio, so they could obviously overdub them later. But then the first thing that happened is they then never signed the release forms, because they realised, it's like, I don't think we want to be associated with this, obviously with the with the murder of that guy. So they decided and then over the intervening years, they now insist that they never played there. Which is kind of funny. It's like, we never played there. You did. We've got film of you playing there. No, we didn't.
I'll have to check that out, because I know the Flying Burrito Brothers played there.
Yeah, quite a few. But see, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I don't know about Crosby, Stills and Nash. I don't know if Neil Young did or not. But there's a new book out about Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, because obviously it's 50 years since, by a man called Peter Doggett, which is well worth a read, because it's
wow. Yeah, I'm a Neil Young nut. We'll have to get that.
Yeah.
We'll have to do. I can't wait for that show. A couple of shows.
Yes, that'd be good. I'll send you the podcast. I've got a podcast of these two guys, Mark Ellen and David Hepworth, interviewing Peter Doggett about his book, which is good fun.
Thanks.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah. Send me the link. I'll give it a listen.
Yeah. It's a fantastic. Yeah, it's really good. That's what they do now. They basically interview people who put out books. So they've interviewed Mark Lewisham about his Beatles books and stuff like that. Cool. It's called Word in Your Eye. I'll send you a link for it, and you can
cool.
pick it up. It's on kind of iTunes and other free podcast things. I get it on my phone. Awesome. But I thought you'd like that. Yeah. The rewriting of history by. But I love the fact that they got David Crosby into the studio to re-record his stage announcements. In 1960, I was like, really? Even then? Yes, even then, yes. Yeah, we didn't really get him, Dave. can't really get you to go back and do them again. So we'll just re-record you and we'll we'll put them. We'll just put them in. Be fine. Drop you in.
Awesome.
Oh dear. So anyway, that was my little snippet at the end.
All right, my friend. I
Cool.
look forward to next week's show.
Have a lovely dinner. I hope it doesn't cost you too much.
No. Do you want to do a roll call for us?
Yeah, that's
roll call, Dave.
Yeah. So thanks to Wesley Store, Dave. That's really cool. Dave, you need to come on and tell us about your Abbey Road thing. Jack Daniels, great to see you, man. Thank you very much. Soda, thanks for the raid. Jason Wade, thanks for joining and contributing. It's really cool. I think that's probably our lot. I don't think anybody else. Oh, Arvin as well. Arvin Gaunt. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. Hope you enjoyed it. With a bit of luck, we'll see you next week.
and I'm going to talk to Dave, and hopefully we'll get Dave on next week.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah,
that'll be awesome. Okay, Dave, I'm talking to you.
I'm having a good day, Jason. It's 8:30 in the morning here.
All right,
can't go back to sleep.
Cheers, guys.
Feed the chickens. Take care. Bye.